how can I capture that excitement and make it the centerpiece of a really cool party that's actually got some Mexican street cred? Well, I've got this idea. I'm going to turn this place, this stove and this countertop into an honest-to-goodness Mexican street stall. I'm going to do a lot of the prep ahead so that when my friends come over, well, I can just serve up my wares. Now, the wares that I have in mind are 3 snacks based on that corn masa. First of all, I'm going to start with some blue corn masa turnovers, Mexico City-style quesadillas fritas with a couple different fillings. I'm going to make some great steak tacos with some seared nopales. And then to top it all off, I'm going to make huaraches, you know, those oval masa cakes, and top those with some chorizo sausage and some salsa. I think I can pull this thing off. And the cool thing is that everybody will just be able to hang out here with me in the kitchen, which is, I think, where they usually end up anyway. So that combination of made-to-order immediacy and really cool cocktail I've got in mind, I think is going to be my ticket to a great Mexican street food party. Okay, let's get this show on the road. I'm going to start off with a couple of fillings for those Mexico City-style quesadillas fritas. The first one's going to be mushrooms, and I'm going to put them into the food processor to help me with all of the chopping here. We've got some cremini and some button and some of the caps off of shiitake mushrooms. And then I'm just going to pulse this until I got a nice fine chop. Okay, I've got some bacon drippings in a large skillet here that I've put over a kind of medium-high. And I'm going to saute these chopped mushrooms in this deliciously flavorful fat. Just put a spoonful of it in there, like that. Dump the chopped mushrooms in there and let those sort of stew around until all of the liquid has evaporated. I'm going to chop up about half of one of these white onions and a little serrano chili to give us some beautiful flavor. Okay, onions and green chili into the pan, and that famous mushroom seasoning from Mexico City, epazote. Now, you could leave this stuff out if you want to, but I'll tell you, it is so delicious with mushrooms. I'm just going to take some of the leaves off of this stalk here and give it a little rough chop. So we're going to toss that in to the same pan. Wow, the aroma that comes up from that is so exciting to me. Stir all of that in, and we're ready to go on now to the second filling. I'm going to put over a flame here in the front a large poblano pepper. I'm going to roast it here until it's blackened and blistered all over, and then let it cool down for a couple of minutes. Then I can just pull off that blackened skin, tear it open, pull out the seed pod. Then I'm going to rinse it really briefly just to get rid of any stray bits of skin or some of those seeds, and then slice it into thin strips. Okay, scoop those into a little bowl. We're going to set this out when our guests come for them to choose what they want to put in there. And now on to cheese to go with it. I've got a little Monterey Jack here that I'm going to grate using the food processor also. Now that'll just drop right in there. Okay, now on to the masa that's going to be the little casing for our turnovers. I'm going to use a blue corn masa mix, a masa harina, and I'm going to mix it in a large bowl. Now, if all you can find is that regular masa harina that is available in practically every well-stocked grocery store, just go ahead and use that. This blue corn is going to make for a very, very attractive little casing here. So I've got 1/3 of a cup of flour that's going to go in there, about a teaspoon of baking powder, about a half a teaspoon of salt. You know, and while I'm at it here, I'm gonna go over to the mushroom mix and give that a little sprinkling of salt. And now I'm going to rehydrate our dehydrated masa mix here with a little bit of hot tap water. Kind of a generous cupful. I'm gonna pour that in. I've got a couple of tablespoons of that fresh rendered bacon fat that's gonna go in there as well. And then I'm just gonna use my hand to kind of mix everything together into a nice, smooth dough. So I'm gonna press out little corn tortillas out of this blue corn masa mix. Fill them with whichever one of the fillings our guests want, the cheese filling or the mushroom filling. Fry them till they're crisp. Sprinkle a little bit of salt on top of them and they'll make the perfect cocktail snack. Which brings me to the cocktail. Okay, I'm gonna make agua de Jamaica, or Jamaica flower water. You've seen this stuff before, right? It's the dried Jamaica flowers. Well, really, it's the little calyx off of a relative of the hibiscus plant. Once you steep a tea out of it and sweeten it up a little bit, well, it tastes a lot like cranberry juice. And all the street vendors all through Latin America love to serve this stuff over ice. Well, I've got a couple of cups of the dried flowers there, and I'm gonna pour 1.5 quarts of water over it. Stir in about 1.25 cups of sugar, then let the whole mixture steep for about an hour, no more than 2 hours. Strain it, stir in 3 cups of water, and you're ready to serve. Pour it into a beautiful glass. I'm gonna set it out with some jicama, some cucumber, some apples, a little lime to squeeze on, some hot chili powder to add a little bit of interest, and I think we're gonna have a great start to our street food party. Okay, if you're gonna do a street food party, then you obviously have to do some good tacos. And what's better than a wonderful cast iron grill to sear some meat on? And of course, those tacos have got to have a really special salsa. So I'm gonna make one out of arbol chilies. Now, if you don't know arbol chilies, they're the long, skinny ones. And these are really the workhorse of the Mexican kitchen. Everybody uses them to make salsa out of. They're really flavorful, and they're really hot. Okay, so I'm gonna start my salsa by taking a handful of these guys. I'm gonna put them into a skillet over a medium heat here and let them toast until they're aromatic, till their color has changed a little bit. Ah, those smell good. I'm gonna just slide them right off here. Leave the pan still on the heat, turn it down just a little bit, and to form the backbone of that salsa, I'm gonna use tomatillos. Now, these tomatillos have already been peeled. Of course, when you find them at the grocery store, a lot of times they'll have that papery husk on them. You gotta peel that husk off like that. And then I'm gonna roast them, but I'm gonna use my really fast method for roasting tomatillos, which is to cut them in half and roast them right in a skillet. I need about 1 pound of these guys, and I'm just gonna lay them out in a skillet like this. We'll start them all face up there. I'm gonna go back and crush a head of garlic apart here and take about 6 of those cloves out to roast right alongside the tomatillos. Okay, those are gonna go right in along with the tomatillos. After 3 or 4 minutes, we'll turn everything over and let it roast until everything is uniformly soft and lightly browned. Okay, now all of this gets combined in the food processor. The roasted tomatillos and roasted garlic. I'll tell you, the kitchen already smells so incredibly delicious. We'll put our toasted arbol chilies in there, and then I'm just gonna turn that food processor on and let it get as smooth as it possibly can. Okay, we're gonna give this a nice seasoning of salt, but you always wanna check your salsa to make sure it's the right consistency. It should be easily spoonable. If it's not, then add some water to it, just a tablespoon or two to loosen it up. And now we're on to the main attraction. This is the beef. Now, I went down to the Mexican grocery store, and I bought this very thinly cut beef, the stuff that they call carne para asar. Oftentimes it's cut from skirt steak, the thicker of the two skirt steaks, that's very thinly sliced so that you can sear it on a hot griddle, sprinkled with just a little bit of salt, and then, man, is that stuff delicious, all chopped up. And nothing is more delicious than when you mix that chopped up seared steak with nopales. I love these things. Maybe you've never had them before, but this is the cactus paddle, the prickly pear cactus paddle. And in a lot of the markets, they'll sell them already cleaned. But if you get the ones that are not cleaned, the ones that still have the spines on them, then this is what you do to clean them. You go around the outside to cut off all of the spines that are right there at the edge. And then holding my knife perpendicular to the surface of the nopal, I scrape all those nodes off where the little stickery spines are. Then flip it over and do the same to the other side. That sweet, rich, browned onion flavor is one of my favorite things in tacos. So I'm gonna slice this onion up, and we'll be ready to start the whole process. Okay, so we've got salsa, we've got the beef, we've got onions to caramelize, we've got nopales to sear. I'm gonna steam some corn tortillas so that they have that wonderful supple quality that we can wrap around all of those delicious ingredients. I'm gonna preheat that cast iron griddle until it's just exactly the right temperature. So I think about the only thing that we have left to create this taco stand is the stand itself. Huaraches, the classic Mexican sandal of all Mexican sandals. And if you happen to be an aficionado of street food and stall cooking, we also know that huaraches are pretty classic in that camp as well. Which came first? The sandal. The street food was named after it because, well, it's based on this pressed out flatbread masa cake that, looks like a huarache sandal sole. You know, you'll find them topped with everything from chorizo sausage to steak to queso fresco, cactus, paddles. It's kind of like a cross between a taco, a quesadilla, and a slice of pizza. In other words, the perfect party food, which is why our little stall here tonight is going to feature them. I thought we would feature them with a topping of Mexican chorizo sausage. I'm gonna get the fire underneath the skillet and open up a package of the chorizo sausage. You know, this is completely raw. You gotta cook the whole thing. I'm gonna put that into the skillet, and we'll come back to it. It'll take about 10 minutes or so for it to cook there. Okay, now on to the masa. This is the exciting part, for me at least, of making huaraches. Now remember that when we were making the little quesadillas masa, we started with the dehydrated masa harina, the blue corn masa harina. But for these, I went down to the local tortilleria and I bought fresh ground masa. You know, that stuff's got almost a silky texture to it. I'm gonna add a little salt to it. And then classic huaraches have a little pureed black bean in the middle of them. So I'm going to open up a can of black beans and then tip off some of their liquid and then put those into the food processor. So I'm going to put the top on it and get this as absolutely smooth as I can. Okay, I think that's going to be just about right. But the truth of the matter is I got to make sure that this masa is kind of the same texture, and I think I've got a pretty good sense of that. So I'm going to need a little bit of water, but water really softens masa very fast, so be very careful how much of it you add to. You notice I just ran my hand over the water, and then I'm kneading that in. Okay, so we got a nice soft dough there. We've got our bean mixture. I'm going to need a little spoon to get that out. And of course, we're going to need the tortilla press to form these guys with. I like to work with those really heavy cast iron tortilla presses because they don't move around on the countertop. Got a couple of pieces of plastic that are cut. I just store them right in there that are cut to fit the plates like that. I'm going to pull the top one off. Now, to make a classic huarache, we're going to take about, a little bit more than golf ball size piece of that there. And I'm going to make a little well right in the center of it. And in that, I'm going to put a little bit of beans. You'll be amazed at how little beans will form this little thin layer. Now I'm going to form this masa up around it. So I have to be careful to get that bean mixture down in there and the masa up around. We don't want to see any of the bean mixture showing through at all. And then I'm going to roll this gently now into about a 5-inch cigar shape. We're going to lay it on the bottom piece of plastic here in our tortilla press, and then very gently press it out. See how that's looking kind of sandal-like now? It won't be even, so I flip it around and press gently on the other side. Very gentle pressing there. Now to unmold our huarache, take the top piece of plastic off. You can see there's a tiny little bit of beans that's showing through. That's okay. There's not going to be any problem with that. Peel off the other piece of plastic, and then we're going to lay this right onto the griddle. It's been heated to about medium heat. We're going to cook it for about 2 minutes on one side until it's set, starting to brown, then 2 or 3 minutes on the other side. And then when the guests arrive, we're going to rewarm these little huarache bases. We're going to drizzle them with a little bit of oil to tenderize them as they warm up, and then we'll let each guest choose what they want to put on top of it. What you would like to have in your little quesadilla. Now these are Mexico City style quesadillas. Who likes mushrooms? I want to sell one of my mushrooms. So I'm going to put a little bit of cheese and a little bit of roasted poblano. It's not very hot. You'll like that. So I'm just closing it up there like that. So I'm going to drop that. We got our oil on now. I'm not a very good street vendor. One person to order separate from another. How many of you have eaten cat? How about you, sir? No, and it's tangier than the Spanish chorizo. It's got more of a crumbly texture. Okay, who are the chorizo lovers here? And you see so this meat is seared now. And I think Mexican street food isn't just a quick bite on a corner. No, it's actually the cornerstone of the cuisine. So grab some friends, fire up the stove, and celebrate. Cheers.